Thank you for joining us on another episode of Matters. I am your host, Tajin Stewart. Today we have an incredible lineup of guests who are going to change the way we think about mental health and well-being. First, please join me in welcoming Dr. Natasha Gordon, renowned psychiatrist and founder of the Mindful Center.
Thank you for having me, Tajin.
She is here to share with us about dissociative personality disorder and postpartum depression. Later in the program, she will give us some pointers on how to cope with anxiety. Next, we have Ms. Tashian Clark.
Thanks for having me.
Who will share with us her story of living with dissociative personality disorder, and her sister, Ms. Willett Mellis.
Thanks for having me.
Later in this segment, we will hear from Mrs. Sharon Taylor Brackett, who has suffered from postpartum depression, and Mrs. Sudian Fisher Green, who will share with us the role of the Jamaica Mental Health Advocacy Network. Together, our guests will share their expertise and inspiration to help us prioritize our mental well-being. Stay with us.
Our emotional and mental well-being is critical to overall good health. Our well-being impacts our health-seeking behavior, proper control of chronic diseases, and our overall quality of life. But stigma and shame prevent us from talking about our mental well-being. It's time to talk. It's time for us to end the silence, stigma, and shame. Let's share our experience. The Health Ministry's non-communicable disease web pages were created to help shine that light, to increase access to information, to inform us on where to go to get help. Please scroll through these pages. Understand that information is power. Let's maintain our mental well-being. There is no good health without good mental health.
Welcome back to Mind Matters. Let's dive into the conversations. Dr. Gordon, what is dissociative disorder?
Alright, disorder, DID, formerly known as multiple personality disorder, are mental health conditions that involve experiencing a loss of connection between thoughts, memories, feelings, surroundings, behaviors, and identity. These conditions include escape from relatives in ways that are not wanted and also not healthy. So dissociative disorder involves switching to other personalities or identities known as alters. Each identity may have a unique name, personal history, and features. These identities sometimes include differences in voice, gender, mannerisms, and even physical qualities such as the need for eyeglasses.
So Dr. Gordon, how does this condition come about? I mean, what brings it on?
Okay, so DID usually arises as a reaction to shocking, distressing, or painful events that may help push away difficult memories. Sometimes DID symptoms occur in a crisis where severe or impulsive behaviors may occur.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gordon, for that comprehensive explanation. Now let us shift focus to Ms. Tashian Clark.
Okay.
Tashian, can you walk us through how you found out you had DID?
Well, as a child, I always felt different. So sometimes I would look in the mirror and I would see different persons looking back at me. And I was so scared because I didn't know what it was. I didn't have the understanding to know what was happening with me. So that was what it was like for me.
So Tashian, were you aware that not everybody was like that, or did you think that everybody was the same?
Well, I started feeling different or experiencing the DID when I was around 6. But as I said, I didn't have the understanding of what was happening. So it happened immediately after my father passed because he was in an accident. So that is when I realized that I started hearing voices in my head. I thought it was a ghost at one point. Sometimes I could hear someone saying to me, well, you can do this better, or this is not what you're supposed to do. This caused confusion in my mind, and at some point it's like I was not remembering everything that was happening or what was taking place around me.
Dr. Gordon, can you shed some light on that?
Most definitely. So a typical symptom of someone with DID is voices inside their head. A person would be in Kingston in the morning and in Montego Bay at 5 in the afternoon, and really they don't remember how they got there. Another symptom would include a sense of being separated from yourself and your emotions. Thinking that people and things around you are distorted or they are not real. A blurred sense of your own identity, just as Tashian would have experienced. Other symptoms are severe stress or problem in relationships or work or other important areas in your life. Not being able to cope well with emotional or work-related stress. Memory loss, also called amnesia, of certain time periods, events, people, and personal information. Mental health problems such as depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts and behaviors.
Tashian, how long have you been aware of missing periods?
Well, it started in grade 3 because I failed 3rd grade. I was not present for most of the time in my classes. Sometimes I was not aware if I did the tests or handed in my assignments, because sometimes Tashian would show up to class, the next time it would be Jessica or Brittany. So for the most part, 3rd grade I was a blur.
Thank you so much. Willett, tell us about your childhood.
Okay, thank you so much again, Paji. So we grew up in Westmoreland, and it was just Tashian, myself, and my mother. So my mother would work most times, so she would leave us with relatives when she has to work overnight. Sometimes she would not come home any at all, and so we ended up spending a lot more time than expected at our relatives. It was after that time, as Tashian mentioned, when we lost our father, that I realized that she was acting differently. That there were just different instances where she just changed from the loving, little sister that she was, to this withdrawn person that I was trying to understand. All right, so for Tashian, when her symptoms started, I was very, what can I say now? I had to be mindful in terms of how I approach her, because in one instance she would be this happy, jovial, little girl, and then there are other instances where she would just be defensive and she would be in your face, and there are just other instances depending on what you say to her, she would just curl up in a corner and started crying. And so that was just very mind-boggling, trying to understand what was happening to her during those periods. So at age 12, Tashian started doing therapy because we were trying to understand or trying to get her the best help that we could get for her. So she started therapy at age 12. It was when I was in my 20s that I found out about the Mindful Center, and Dr. Gordon was the one who suggested that Tashian has DID at the time. So that is when we were able to make sense of everything that was happening to her, and that we in turn now were able to understand her better and to better able to help her really deal with this that she had to live with.
Right. It was such a relief at the age of 12 talking to someone who actually understood what I was going through and could diagnose and provide the necessary medication that I would need to get through what I was going through internally. Because at that time, as I said before, I couldn't explain or basically provide my parents with feedback or my sister with the necessary feedback for them to get the help that I needed. So when I finally got the help, it was like a breath of fresh air.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, Tashian. That was very brave of you to do so.
I just hope I was able to help someone else with my story so that they can get the information and the help that they need.
After the break, we'll welcome Mrs. Taylor Brackett and Mrs. Fisher Green. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Welcome back to Matters. It's now time for our fun facts. In the region, depression continues to be the leading mental health disorder, and it is twice as frequent in women as in men. 10% to 15% of women in industrial countries, and 20% to 40% of women in developing countries suffer from depression during pregnancy or the postpartum period. That is according to PAHO. Let's move on to our guests. Sherian, please share with us your experience going through postpartum depression.
Okay. This was not an easy process, but let me start with the pregnancy so that we can have a little understanding, right? So, when my husband and I found out that we were pregnant, of course we were very excited, we were elated, we were over the moon, and we were calling our close friends and loved ones to let them know that, hey, we're gonna have our child, and you know, all the work. So, going through the pregnancy, the first stages, it was very smooth. Everything was going fine, doctor's appointments, baby was developing as she should. Yes, it's a girl. So she was developing as she should. So, when it was time for delivery, we went to the hospital as I was feeling pains and stuff, for the normal stuff. It was a rough experience at the hospital. I didn't have a natural birth. I ended up having to do C-section because of negligence on the hospital's part, and the baby was falling into distress, right? So, when I did the C-section, I didn't know what was happening because they had put me to sleep. So, when I woke up and asked them, they said that baby is born and everything, and I asked them if she was okay. And they said, yes, she's okay. All right. So a little while after that, after we got the chance to take the baby home, I realized that I was feeling depressed. I was feeling down. I didn't have much interest to eat anything. Fatigue. I couldn't sleep during the nights. When the baby cried, I would just break down in tears and cry. My husband was asking what was happening. I didn't know what to tell him because I did not know myself what was happening inside of me or what was happening with me. whenever the baby cried, I could hardly even look at her. I was just like, somebody just come and get this child from out of this room. I cannot bother with this and stuff like that. And of course, my husband tried to help because he was the only one in close proximity to me at the time. But it just wasn't enough. It just felt overwhelming. I did not have any attachment to the child. I referred to the child as it. I said to my husband, take it up, I cannot bother, and it was just all over the place, right? How did I know that I needed help? When I could not bond with that child. I could not bear the thought of seeing the child. Of course, during the phase of pregnancy, I was excited, but I just could not understand why at this point when I'm supposed to like, hey, you're finally here, I'm just like, I can't do this. So my husband started to get help for me. He called my mother so that she could come and assist with me and the baby in terms of washing, feeding the baby and stuff like that, because even to get the baby to latch onto the breast, I just could not do it. So she came over and helped, and he got some counseling for me, and that was what kind of eased the tension a bit. And going through the therapy sessions, I was able to say more of what was happening within me, my thoughts, and the therapist was able to walk me through some steps in which I could use to overcome this issue.
Wow, that must have been a very scary and difficult time for you.
Yes, Tajin. It actually was very scary, and I would not wish this on any mother at all, because going through this, it has opened my eyes to a lot of things. And since I've connected with Jaman and volunteers, I've since got the courage, the bravery to speak up about this and to let others know that, hey, this is real and anybody can become prey to it. You just have to know what it entails and know when to get help.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Fisher-Green, can you give us a brief introduction to Jamaica Mental Health Advocacy Network and its mission?
Sure. Thank you for having me. And I must commend you for this program that you're having here today. Here at Jamaica Mental Health Advocate Network, JAMHAN, we are an organization that offers support and resources to Jamaicans who are suffering from mental illness. And we were actually founded in May 2012, where we have a range of experts, we have social workers, and we have mental health advocates who are working on our behalf.
Can you tell us some of the key programs and initiatives that JAMHAN is currently running?
Yes, we definitely have several programs running. We have a public awareness program in which we have social media campaigns, radio advertisement that raises awareness about mental illness in Jamaica. We also have counseling and support groups in which we have a safe space for persons who are suffering to, share their experience, and they have experts who can offer guidance. We also have an Alzheimer's detection program in which we collaborate with Davis Alzheimer's. So that program also detects early Alzheimer's in children growing up. We also have the employment assistance program in which the program assists employees to manage their stress to impact a positive work environment.
How can the public get involved with JAMHAN's work?
So we're actually searching for volunteers, and we hope for participation in our public ed campaigns, and we also would accept donations to push these campaigns.
How can we get in touch with the organization?
Alright, so we're on all major social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook. We also have a TikTok page, and we are located at the university campus in Mona. Our contact number is 952-3157.
Thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing your story, and thank you, Mrs. Fisher-Green, for telling us about Jamaica. Here is an excerpt from an interview with the mental health officer, Mrs. Viltress Hyatt-Morris of the Trinidad Health Services, on how to treat mental health patients.
Okay, thank you. What advice would you give to families or caregivers who are supporting someone with a mental health condition?
Okay. The more support they have, the better for them. Because when they have the love and the care, just as though you have your relative who might have any other physical condition, and you would love that person, you care for them, it's the same way with a mentally ill person. Once they get their love and the care, it is so much, it does so much for them because they know that somebody is there for them because no illness defines you. And when they have persons who care for them and help them to take their medications, are there for to support them in advising them to visit the clinic, follow up on their clinic appointments, taking their medication as prescribed, and once they are on their medications as prescribed, then it brings them back to good functionality. And that is the aim of persons with mental illness. We want them to be a part of society. So when they're back in society and can be functional, so if the person was going to school and get ill, encourage them to take the medication because the aim of medication is to bring them back to functional level. Once they become functional level and they can cope, so they can go back to school. If it was a person who was working and they had to stop working because of the mental illness, once they start taking their medication and they have the good love and support of family members, friends, whoever it is, and they are now at a stable place when they start taking their medications and they are now stable, that person can go back to work once the person can cope with the situation. And for persons who are mental illness, you know, staying away from stressful situations, that helps to get them back into functional level. So because when they're in a stressful situation, some of the symptoms will come back. So once they stay away from all stressful situations, having eating healthy, exercise, and all of those things are proper mental health techniques. So eating a proper diet, rest, sleep, having a good support, expressing how they feel, and not abusing drugs or alcohol, especially like smoking or drinking too much. That also helps to bring on some of the symptoms that they might be having. So it is important that family members love and support, follow up, do the follow up care with them, and help them to get back into society, to be at a functional level where they can be integrated into the environment where they belong. Okay.
Okay, so recover from a mental illness.
In terms of recovery, it's not that they're getting, it can be treated, controlled, but it's not like it can be cured. But once they're on their medication, just as though if it was an hypertensive client or a diabetic client, it is important for them to be on their medication just the same. Just as though, if you go to the doctor and the doctor say you have pressure or sugar, and you have to take your medication for life, it's the same thing with the mental illness. So what I would encourage them to do is to take their medication so that they can be controlled.
Folks, it is that time when we work on our mental health. Dr. Gordon, take it away.
Alright, so I want you all to sit up straight. So shoulders roll back, your back straight. Close your eyes. So while your eyes are closed, I want you to clear your mind of everything that is going on around you, so your mind should be completely blank. Now I want you to breathe in through your nose, so you should feel that diaphragm, expanding out as you feel the air in. So in, exhale out through your mouth, all the way out. In again. Try to feel the chair beneath and your body, your feet grounded to the floor. Exhale again out. Breathe in and out. One more time. Breathe in. Deep breath. Alright, release. Alright, so I guarantee that you should be feeling a bit more relaxed. So whenever you're feeling a bit anxious or a little bit tense, you can try this exercise to try and relax your body and your mind.
I am feeling more relaxed already. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I want to thank all our guests tonight who have shared their insights and stories with us. Thank you, our audience, for staying with us throughout the program. Until next week, remember to take care of your well-being. See you soon on Mind Matters.